So I've designed a neural network, firstly one that is a connectionist model of a functionally referent signal in Sapajus nigritus, the black tufted capuchin. And what we're essentially seeing is a bark call input here, which activates the neural network. I'm going to reset the dynamics and explain what each unit in the connectionist network means. This unit actually represents just one part of an entire circuit that would be devoted towards recognition of the bark signal. This unit would be part of a network that would associate a template or a schemata, a neural network designed to recognize a raptor template. And each of these neurons are essentially muscle effector outputs, which are wired up precisely so that they produce a 1, 3, 2, 4 limb locomotion associated with quadrupedal locomotion. Pretty much a motor escape strategy for the primate. So when you essentially have the bark signal, you have activation, instant automatic activation of the raptor representation, which in turn activates the escape response. A fairly linear network because it's context specific to the raptor. Now, what I'm going to demonstrate is I'm going to load another neural network, this time devoted to a more complicated system. This is the hiccup call in black tufted capuchins, which activates actually a series of representations, possibly, including all terrestrial animals, including felids, snakes, and possibly another capuchin, which is a deceptive signal. And that's what these three units are representing here, is three independent parts of a network which would be devoted towards those kinds of templates. You have one here that's designed to recognize the hiccup call, and we've got one neuron here which is essentially sensitive. Well, I've designed it to be sensitive towards a platform schema. And then over here we've got the typical 1, 4, 2, 3 system for locomotion, escape and evade. But in this case I've designed it such that if the representation for deceptive capuchin is the unit that's activated, it will actually suppress the locomotor escape system. As I'm going to show you now on my camera, I've actually mocked up in this garden a feeding platform using a pallet and approximately 1.5 to 2.5 centimeter slices of bananas. And what this camera is essentially doing is mimicking the visual system of the primate. And I've hooked up my camera to my neural network that I designed, the hiccup perceptron. And so we can see that in a non-feeding context, if the hiccup call is given, it attenuates all three of these representations here, including the last inhibitory node, which was the deception. But because we were in the non-feeding context, it also activated all the representations, and thus the summation of the felid and the snake representation were greater than that of the deception, and so you still got the locomotor escape output. But if I now point the camera at the feeding platform, it recognizes the feeding platform. You can see the shape of the pallet there. And what it's essentially doing is that schema is now suppressing, using inhibitory input to suppress the representational units of the felid and the snake. So now if I press the hiccup call, they are inhibited, and the escape and evade option isn't activated. It sends an output over here to this bottom deception unit, and upon receiving that information, assuming that this would be similar to a neural network in a primate, this unit is going to suppress the locomotor and escape output, because the primate is recognizing that in this context it's less likely to be a true predator signal. And so by being a non-functionally referent, this neural network takes into account, in this case at least 3 representations for the sound unit, not just one like the raptor call. It makes the network more susceptible to pragmatic inputs. So given that this is a neural network, a neural net, we might call this system, pragmatics. And so that's the design. And this neural network has several predictions. It namely predicts that with a functionally referent signal, because the meaning is linear, if a bark is given, it's a raptor, and the primate needs to evade the raptor, it's less susceptible to pragmatic systems. So there should be no difference in response between the feeding platform situation and the non-feeding platform situation given a bark playback.